Yeah, there are mainly two types of clients. So the first type is they have a vision. They want to find a branding expert to help them bring their vision to life. So they don't have any brand assets, and I work with them to create that brand strategy because it's not only just make logos and the brand visible.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and today we're doing a Female Friday feature, and we have Elva Li joining us, and I'm really excited to introduce her. She basically helps female coaches and founders create a luxury brand so that they can attract high-end clients, increase their influence, impact, and income. And I know that's one thing our audience really loves to do, increase our influence and their impact. They like to say that their income is the side effect of that, but let's be honest, it's important for us to also be able to have, I believe we can have more impact and influence if we increase our income. So Elva grew up in Shanghai and moved to Melbourne. So it's very early in the morning while we're recording this podcast for her. And she found some success in the corporate world. And then she had 10 years of experience in business advisory, coaching, and brand styling, and then kind of went out on her own. And so I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about your journey and your story and what it is, how you help female business owners, and learn a little bit more about that kind of like side of the business and from the other side of the world, which I think is kind of exciting. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Thank you for the introduction, Krista, and thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to share with the audience about my journey and my expertise so that they can build that brand as well. Yeah, a little bit about my background. As you have already mentioned, I grew up in Shanghai and moved to Melbourne, where I found a success in the corporate world, but I felt it wasn't my calling. So I started my entrepreneurial journey, personal development, spiritual growth journey, and invest a lot in developing myself and find what lights me up, what my sweet spot that not only I love doing, but also I can help others and contribute to the world as well. So I find branding, which is my sweet spot. I went to Paris to study the high-end branding, and also I have an eye for luxury branding. And also it's what lights me up every day, because my vision is to help female entrepreneurs and to build a brand and shine their light one brand at a time so that they can be confident, they can be serving their purpose and working with their dream client. And I believe, I always say, luxury is not about Chanel or Dior. Luxury can be just a feeling. Somebody say luxury is not spiritual, but I find it's actually spiritual because it gives you the choice to do what lights you up, to serve the world in the way that benefit not only you, but the world as well. And I always say luxury is about owning your desire, owning your ability, and the power to lead and inspire and standing high worth. That's what I define as a luxury brand. And also I developed my signature Lux Fan brand system, which integrates holistic high-end brand strategy, creative direction, and mindset and soul work, so that it's a holistic way to translate the essence of my client, a woman's beautiful soul, into a luxury brand.
That's super exciting. So I'd love to backtrack a little bit, if that's okay. So what was, most of my audience, I would say, is in the United States. So what was it like growing up in Shanghai, which is a significantly different culture than we have over here in the United States?
Yeah, sure. That's a really great question. I would like to use the word good girl to summarize how I grow up. So you actually follow what's traditionally defined as success in Shanghai, China. Basically, you went to a great university and you got a good job, and that was is a good girl, that's what is a successful, and you be a successful, good daughter for my parents. That's how I grow up. But then I realized it's not what I really meant to do. It wasn't my calling, but still that kind of good girl energy carried me through. When I moved to Melbourne, I still follow the same path, like went to one of the big four business advisory firms in the world. And also still in my business in early stage, I followed what works for other people. I listened to the advice, but wasn't really think about what's unique about me, what my desires. And so that's what I would like to summarize is actually the good girl inside of me, because I grew up in China in that kind of culture. You have listened to certain kind of advice, you follow certain kind of pattern, until I break up that identity and owning my desire and follow my heart, that I started to see the growth in myself and also in my business and life.
That's super exciting. And I think that even being different culturally, I think women across the board sometimes feel that we are under, whether it's societal ideas or perceptions of what we should do, what people are expecting of us. And, so I think that translates across, continents and countries and everything. And so how did that transpire, like picking up? First of all, I've never lived outside of the United States. So even me moving to like California would be, from Florida to California would be a big move. Moving from China to Australia is big. So like, what was that journey like? And how did that conversation go with your family?
Yeah, I'm actually very grateful. My parents are open-minded. Of course, they kind of feeling reluctant to let me go in the beginning, and they were a little bit worried, like because they never moved to overseas before, but they still trusted me and give me the freedom to do what lights me up and follow my heart. So I'm very grateful for that. And the immigration journey wasn't easy because you have to adapt to different culture. But I think at that time I was young and very open-minded and would love to try different things. And also Melbourne is a very friendly city and multicultural as well. So it's easier for me to settle down and also dive into the culture here, expose myself to different mindset. And it's a mind-blowing experience for me to see, oh, actually, there are different ways rather than just follow your career path. You can build your business, there are freedom, and there are so many female entrepreneurs as well. It's actually, I feel like I got a Tiffany box from the universe. Let me see. There are so many gifts in different opportunities.
I love that. A Tiffany box from the universe. I might like steal that and use it again. Did you know anyone in Melbourne when you moved over there? Did you move for a job or an opportunity or school, or did you just say, this is where I'm going?
Yeah, actually, I just packed my bag and moved here, and not knowing anyone and starting from scratch.
Oh my goodness.
I would say it's a really rewarding journey. Learned so much. And
I believe that for sure. I mean, my mom is an immigrant. She came to this country alone. My sister-in-law is also from China, and her mom came to the United States alone. And I'm always very impressed with people that move overseas to a completely different country, because like you said, culturally, you have to learn to adapt. You have to learn to speak a new language. Although I know a lot of people in China speak English very well. It's only Americans that only learn one language in their whole life. But for the fact of you to like just pick up, and how old were you when you moved to Melbourne?
In my 20s.
Yes, I mean, at a young age, you're still finding yourself, and that's impressive. So for sure, your success is inevitable if you have the courage to like get up, go overseas, and replant yourself. So that is really interesting. And thank you for sharing that with us, because I think it's a great kind of backstory, so that I think all those little pieces lead up to like what your future experiences and like what got you to where you are today. So let's dive into that now. So what is it if you can kind of describe it in a nutshell that you do for female business owners and helping them brand themselves.
Great. So I help them, I integrate, as I said, inner work, outer work, and higher work, a holistic strategy to help them translate their soul into a luxury brand that incorporates first the mindset work, because if you cannot own your luxury brand, if you have mindset and money blocks, then you will never exude the luxury brand inside of you. I believe there is a luxury icon inside every one of us, but sometimes we need to uncover the money blocks and the mindset blocks. So that's the inner work. And the outer work, then we move on to strategy and the visual part. So map out your luxury brand strategy. What makes you different? What's your lux factor? And how can you make a luxury brand experience for your client and offer your signature offer? And all the visuals and brand assets to support it, from your logo, your brand color, your fonts, your website, social media, all these touching points of your brand, or the visual online experience. I always say building business online now is like a hot couture show, and you decide what you're going to wear, and how your visual show up is how your people find you online. It's the first impression, which is very important. And last but not least is the soul and the higher work, I call it, because you need to embody the luxury brand you are and co-create with the universe. It's really about stepping into your desire and show up and embody the message, embody the movement, embody your brand, what it stands for. I say the more you stand up for your message, it's less about you, but about the message and the movement you are creating. So sometimes it's paradoxical. Sometimes it's all about you. You represent your brand, but the more you represent your brand, is actually not about yourself. It's about the bigger cause and the message.
Yeah, I mean, that's really eye-opening that you said that. And it kind of got me thinking, sometimes when we, as business owners, we might be selling something or putting something out there in the universe, but if there's some sort of inherent block that we don't actually believe we deserve it, or we're worthy of it, or we don't own it, there is this, how can I describe it? It's like this push-pull that kind of, and then people are like, well, I don't really understand why it's not working. It's not working. It's not working. But it's really because there's like these blocks that we internally have. So we, and we have to get over those. So I love that you talk about working with the mindset and the money blocks. So would you be able to give us some examples of some of the mindset and the money block that some women have when you start working with them?
Yes, sure. So the big thing is they believe if they put themselves out there, it's like cheeky, it's like not authentic, or the word fame or luxury means negative things for them. So if you believe that, then you can never really say, I embody my luxury brand. So that's why working with mindset is the first thing. And we have to recognize what you believe and think about it. Is it really true? For example, if you believe fame is not a good thing, is it really true? Can you see good examples? People with fame, people with influence actually do good things in life. And then you start to question your so-called true belief and explore different realities and starting to recognize the pattern, the limiting beliefs, and change it to positive things. And you will see actually putting yourself out there and have influence is a soulful thing, because you can use your influence to create the changes you want to see in the world. And the money is not a bad or good money, just energy. And if you're good people, you use money for good. So these are the starting point to change your money beliefs, change your beliefs about fame and being visible. and wants you to start to see it from a different angle. And then you can start into working on creating mantras or creating, I call it manifesto, to really start tap into what lights you up and how can you make it a beautiful story about being visible and making money by doing what you love.
Yeah, that's so great. I liked that idea of fame and people thinking if they're famous, then that's a negative connotation. But you're right, like there's lots of famous people that do really, really good things in the world. And so one of the big money blocks that we see in our industry a lot, in the health and wellness and fitness industry, is people think I can help people or I can make money. And they really have this feeling of like it's mutually exclusive. Like you're not a good person if you charge people for helping them. And so there's this juxtaposition where, people feel badly about it. And, we work a lot on that and telling people you can make money and also help people. Like they're not mutually exclusive. And so just like you said, like, is that really true? Are there lots of people out there that do really amazing things and still get paid for it? And developing mantras, we say things in our industry like, selling is serving. If you serve, you deserve, that kind of thing. And so, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but I think that that's a great, great piece, because if internally we don't believe it, there'll always be this kind of struggle with putting ourselves out there authentically and standing in our power. And I believe that. And I believe that that's exactly what you're saying. So once you move from the mindset thing, now you're going into strategy.
Yeah.
And now are people, when they're working with you, are they starting like completely from scratch? Or do you have a combination of people like have no logo, no branding, no colors, and you're starting from scratch? Or do you have people that kind of come to you already with branding and you're just there to fine tune it, improve it, kind of package it in a pretty bow?
Yeah, there are mainly two types of clients. So the first type is they have a vision. They want to find a branding expert to help them bring their vision to life. So they don't have any brand assets, and I work with them to create that brand strategy, because it's not only just make logos and the brand visible, it's actually making your brand visible to the right type of clients you want to attract. And so that's one type. We create everything from scratch. The other type of clients coming to me is they're out of alignment. They may be in business for several years. They have already their logos, website, or things, but they just feel something not right anymore. Sometimes they outgrown their brand. Sometimes they pivot, and they feel like it's not authentic with their brand. The current brand doesn't reflect who they are and who they want to be. So we kind of do rebranding, and based on where they want to go, who they want to be, and the next level of themselves, rather than their past and current brand. Yeah, so there are two types of clients.
Oh, great. And I'm really glad that you said that, because I think so many business owners, especially women, who maybe are not, how should I say it? Like, they're not as busy savvy, which I'm not either. I don't have an MBA. I started my business not knowing a lot. People sometimes think when they decide on what it is they're going to do, they're like stuck with it forever. And so it's great that you said that you can go through the rebranding process. You can decide to pivot and go in another direction. If that's really what you should be doing. I also believe that some of the money blocks for people are like they purposely break their own business so that because they think they have to work harder and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's another money block. But I think that's a great point to mention, that you're not stuck in stone. You can change your mind. You can change your colors. You can step into a new version of yourself, especially if you've grown personally and you've done some great inner work and soul searching, and you want to put that person forward in a new brand. I think that that's a great point to make, that you can change your mind and pivot at some point in your career. So when you're discussing, I'm always fascinated with branding. I think it's super important. And I love to hear like the backstories of people's branding choices and how they came up with, whether it be their colors or their fonts or their logos. So what kind of things or process goes into choosing, whether you're doing a rebrand or starting from scratch, somebody's brand colors, or maybe even a font that they decide to use? Is there a process behind that, and how does that work?
Yeah, because it's a big process. If I summarize, the first phase is getting the clarity. It's about like, for example, what are the 3 words summarize the feeling you want to create, the magical world, the experience once people land on your website, see your brand visuals, what kind of those feelings you want to create, who are your ideal clients, and what's your unique essence. All those clarity is the foundation of your visuals. And the second stage is getting inspirations. So we will create the mood board to capture the essence and the clarity we got, and brainstorm with client to capture the essence. And based on the mood board, and then you create the logos and the colors and the fonts. And the system I use is based on your brand archetype. So there is a quiz on my website. Your audience can also go to check which archetype are they. So based on different archetype, it's like different seasons. Imagine the color for the spring is so different for the color for the autumn. One is more muted, one is more in-depth. So different brand archetype, you will associate with them, associate different color tones with different archetype and the shapes and the vibe. For example, if your brand is pure black and white, that means the archetype is the queen archetype, and there are certain kind of elements suitable for queen archetype. So that's a guideline for creating the visuals. So basically get the clarity, and we will gather the inspiration, create the mood board, then produce the brand visuals.
That's super exciting. These kind of things like fascinate me. So if somebody went with like chose green as maybe their brand color, I know there's a variety of shades of green, but like what if somebody, like what does green kind of signify as a brand color? What kind of message is that putting out to people? I love how you said the black and white is like the queen archetype, and then everything kind of goes around with that. That kind of makes sense, black and white. So what about a color like green?
So that's a really great question. That's why the brand archetype helps. Just like you said, there are so many shades of green, and the different shades, different tones actually reflect different messages. Just like green, pink, each color is the same. For example, a neon pink is so different from muted pink. One is more elegant feeling, but one is more bold and even girly. So it really depends on which is your archetype. Then we can, based on your archetype, choose the shade of that color.
That's super interesting. And then as to when you even come up with like fonts, right? There's, serif, sans serif, and like, I would imagine, and again, I have no idea what I'm talking about, so you tell me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that like straight lines, very bold, very straight fonts have a different kind of connotation and meaning that if you do like a cursive font that has a lot of like rounded corners versus straight corners. Is that true, or am I completely off base?
No, you are absolutely right, actually. So for example, if your brand archetype is a creative archetype, then you want to use those movements in your fonts, and not like just straight line, as you mentioned is a great example. And based on just the look of fonts, you can feel one is more creative, have more movement, and one is more like traditional or like a classic. So yes, you're absolutely right. And different movements, different type of fonts express different feelings.
Yeah, that's really, I think all of that is fascinating, because truthfully, I really do believe that all of these little touch points have an effect on your customer, and it has an effect on your brand. And the thing is, most customers don't they don't understand the effect it's having on them necessarily, but it's the reaction they get. So for example, if I'll give you a perfect example. I'm a very square, clean lines, like very clean oriented. So if I go to someone's website and they're very bright, loud colors to me, and it's a lot of stuff on the page, it makes me internally feel anxious. And I am already highly anxious. And so that doesn't resonate with me personally, right? So that kind of design, if I am your ideal client, that kind of design is going to put me off. Versus if I am your ideal client and your website is very clean, very easy to navigate, the colors are soothing to me and inviting, and I can clearly see the information I need, that's wonderful to me. Like, I hate going into I love stores like here in the United States. I don't know if they're international or not, but we have stores that are like TJ Maxx or Ross, which we have some great stuff at lower price points, but there's so much stuff in there. It makes me anxious. And so I don't like shopping in there. And I'm the same kind of visually on our websites and stuff. So I would imagine that maybe business owners don't even realize that sometimes, but it has an effect on the customer that they're trying to attract. The colors they use,
You're absolutely right.
Sequence even on their website, how they lay out pictures with that, I would imagine that that's all part of the process.
Yeah, exactly right. And that go back to the first phase, clarity. Because most of my clients, I'm specializing in luxury branding. They want to attract high-end clients. And you need to understand the psychological of high-end clients and what kind of visual they prefer. And if you go to those luxury brand website, you actually see lots of white space and lots of clarity. And those are all the things you need to consider. Your ideal clients definitely is one part of it. And also what's your personal preference. If it doesn't light up you up and it doesn't reflect who you are, it's also not a good design as well. So all these things, although small, but it's actually speak very loud, because it gives people the first impression just within seconds without their conscious mind to realize it.
Totally. I totally agree with that. It's so subconscious, and people don't, consumers don't realize that. They just have a vibe of, it's the same way if you meet somebody and can't really put your finger on it, but you're like, I don't know, that person didn't sit well with me. They didn't do anything mean, but I don't know. The energy they're giving me is not kind of great. It's the same with branding. And then the other thing, can you talk a little bit about, because this is something that I see a lot with new business owners, and it's one of the things that we talk about when we go through our branding and lessons and stuff in my consultant programs, is that trying to stay on brand is very important. So what we mean by on brand, well, I'll let you talk about what on brand is, but even the whole slew of complementary colors, what colors kind of go together. So for example, our logo is purple, but we don't have only purple on our website. Obviously that would be a lot of purple, so that there are colors that will match and complement that tone. And so the importance of staying on brand, staying with the same font and the same color, or the same family, I say, what goes together and what doesn't go together. Can you kind of speak to the importance of that?
Yeah. So basically you need to have a consistency. And the first step is you need to have a brand Bible, or what I call it, brand book, which details what fonts you use, what kind of colors, your color set, and the shades of them, all the codes, so you can use consistently on all the touching points and platforms. So that will create a consistent brand image in your client's mind. So every time they see that kind of shade, for example, orange or blue, that kind of shape, and your logo, your submark, and it leaves the impression in their mind and create their consistency. So the brand book is really a good way to document everything, so that once you even outsource or give the work to your VA, your team, they always know what color to use, what font to use, and what kind of image guidance they can follow so that they can pick the right image to suit your brand. That's what I call it. Is really the good key to create your consistency across all platforms and touch points. Because if you always change your brand colors and fonts and unconsciously, you actually create a surprise in your client's mind and create confusion as well. And remember, confused mind will never buy. And so that's why it's so super key to keep the consistency and keep on brand. And it's not only about your post, your like the fonts on your visual posts, but also how you show up for example, your videos. What clothes are you wearing? Are you wearing on brand? And is it that illustrate your personal style that suits your brand? Even nowadays, we do so many Zoom calls and videos. Is your background setting, is your office Zoom background reflect your brand as well? That's all the things we need to consider.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I'm so glad you talked about that. The other thing that I think is important too for people to remember is also now that people are, with Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff, whatever platform you're on, you should also use the same filter all the time. So like if your filter is on there, like one is bright and then one is dark and then one, and I'm obviously talking about a personal, like a business brand. I don't like what you do on your personal page. I don't think anybody really cares, but yeah, the filters make things look different. So if one is like a yellowish color and the other one is very white, or if you do everything in black and white, then do everything in black and white. And those are like little things that, again, subconsciously confuse the client. And you're absolutely right. Confused clients never buy. Like yours. So for those of you that are listening to the podcast, we also do video. If you actually want to see this video, go to my YouTube channel, which is just search Krista Gurka on the YouTube channel. So you can kind of see what we're talking about. So if you see Elva's background, she is, first of all, she looks super fashionista, like 100%. I love it. You can't really see I don't know if you guys can see the little bow, but she's got this like big, beautiful bow on her shirt, which is gorgeous. And you can see in the back, she has like Chanel, it's off to her right shoulder a little bit. And she has a little pop of color, which actually matches her lipstick. That, I don't know if it was like purposeful or not, but it looks perfect versus if you're looking at my video, like in almost all my videos, I'm the same. I have like my hair pulled up in a ponytail and I'm usually wearing athletic clothes. I do those sit in the same spot for 99% of my podcast interviews. So the background for the most part is the same. Now, I made a conscious decision when I was starting to promote my business to pivot to show up more authentically like myself. So at the beginning, when I was trying to promote myself as like a business CEO, I had this idea in my head that CEOs were like, I grew up in the 80s. So, we used to see people in high stiletto heels and suits and hair, pulled back with tons of makeup. And I realized like that success and CEOs look different for everybody. Like my industry is health and fitness. I'm in workout pants every single day. Do I have a high ticket item? I do, but I wouldn't also feel comfortable. It's kind of going back to what you said, like, yes, my branding and my visuals look very clean, but I wouldn't feel comfortable and authentic if I showed up with like a face full of makeup like I was going to a wedding, because that's not who I am on a normal basis. So I think it's really important for people, just like you said, it has to, one, speak to your customer, but it also has to align with who you are, right? Because if not, then there will still always be this like juxtaposition, because you're like, this is not really how comfortable I feel. So her branding, she creates luxury brands. Like just looking at her showing up in the picture today makes me feel like I know exactly what she does and how she's going to promote. And I think that that is something that is important for people to realize. And it takes, so let me ask you this, how what was your journey like developing your own personal brand as you were starting to build your own company? Did that come easily for you? Was that kind of a lot of trial and error, or how did that come about for you personally?
I would say the journey is always beautiful, but it's not always pretty. So there are up and downs, and I would say it's trying to finding who I truly am and owning my desire. Because in the beginning, I have the same mindset block as my clients, and I overcome it myself. I have an eye for luxury and high-end design, but in the beginning, I wasn't brave enough or confident enough to own my desire and claim it. And I desire beautiful things, but I hide it. And I worried people will judge me superficial. And not until I realized these blocks in my own mind and overcome them and starting to embody my own brand, starting to embody my desire for beautiful things, for quality things, and starting to spread my message about what I believe a luxury brand is really is, and owning my desire to serving high-end clients and helping them uncover their luxury icon inside of them. Then my brand starting to blossom, and that's what I teach for my clients as well. Because just as you said, we cannot put out a mask as who we are not, because you need to live your brand every day. If you always put on a mask, you'll feel inauthentic, and people can feel the energy. And energy is a great thing, and is really important. I always mention in my work, because people actually buy your energy, and your ideal clients can feel your energy. If you feel like a fraud, if you are not showing up fully, people can sense that energy, and that's why they don't buy from you. They don't want to invest in you, because you are not embodying who you are. What if they say yes to you and they cannot see the results? Because if they don't believe in who you represent, who you are, they can't say the yes to themselves. They can't see the possibility for themselves. So I would say no one ever arrives. We're always on this journey. Sometimes I'll always feel, oh, my limiting belief come up again, but now this time I know how to return to my high status quickly, and how I can change my mindset quickly. And I think that's what we need to learn, is not always blame ourselves. Oh, why I thought I already overcome this, but it comes again. The great thing is now you become wiser, you can recognize it quicker, and you can return to your higher status quicker, and have a higher energy back, and serving your clients in your best status. You know how to do that.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. Girl, you are so smart. Whatever work you have done onto yourself for up to this stage has been amazing, because your success, like I said, is inevitable. You are going to be great. And by the way, you look fantastic. So here's the thing that I appreciate fashion. Like I look like, I love watching the Oscars the other night and watching all the runway fashion. And I like nice things too. I'm just more of like a jeans and t-shirt girl. But when I look at you and your beautiful shirt, I'm like, oh, I love that. I love it. And I can appreciate it in someone else, but I can also see and probably empathize with you how that might have been a growing stage. Whereas like stepping into the ownership of, yes, I like luxury things and I like nice things. And that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or that I'm shallow or something like that. And I think that's also, I'm projecting, but maybe that's also a woman thing, that like women think other women judge them, et cetera, et cetera. But good for you for working on that. And I do agree too, like sometimes those self-limiting beliefs keep trickling back up. But when we have the strategies to say, okay, is that true? And is it helpful in this situation? And we can say, no, it's not. And we're going to step into who we authentically are. And that's really, really, really powerful. And I say this all the time. There's nothing that means more to me than when I meet people in real life after like maybe communicating them on social media, or they listen to my podcast and they say to me, oh, you're exactly like I thought you would be. Like that does make me feel like I really am showing up as who I am. I'm not this other person, pretending to be this other person, because I agree with you, you can only do that for so long. You can only pretend to be somebody else for so long before that facade starts to crumble. And then it becomes painful even for people to like put on this persona forever when it's not who they authentically are. And I think, Gwen, too, I would ask you if you feel your messaging. I know my messaging started changing and started resonating more with people when I stepped into being who I authentically was, and really owning who I was and saying there is an audience for me as who I am. And those are the people I want to speak to. So did you have that kind of same experience when you really stood into who it was that you felt internally? Did your kind of messaging and work with your clients improve as well?
Yes, exactly. Like for myself, once I starting to crown myself as a luxury branding queen, and I attract those I called queens to me, that who are ready to embody their luxury icon and who are the ideal clients I want to work with. And same for my clients. For example, as females, we love shoes, and they are worried people will judge them. But once they starting to owning their shoe desire and showcase them and showcase their lifestyle, but with a sharing energy, with owning their desire energy and showcase what is possible, and their ideal clients attracted to them as well. So I think it's the same with every brand. If you're starting to owning your brand message and be authentically who you truly are, your ideal clients will attracted to you. Because once you're starting sharing your message, you give a people choice to say yes or no. Not everyone is for you, but your ideal clients who resonates with message can choose to say yes with your message. If you do not really show up as who you are, how can your ideal client to choose to say yes or no? To like they even don't know who you truly are and your ideal your message is.
Yeah, and it's actually, I think, very powerful too to exclude people who are not your ideal client, right? And I don't mean exclude like in a bad way, but like there's billions of people in the world, like attract the people that are going to resonate with you, and there's other people out there that are going to resonate with other people. And so that's the beauty of what this is, being who you are. Nobody can do what you do exactly like you do, and that's the secret sauce for us females. Like you and I we don't, but we could do the same thing, and you would attract certain people and I would attract certain people, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's the beauty of this world. So, I mean, and if you go back to talking about shoes, I love some good shoes, but if you talk about branding from like, like the red bottoms, like everyone knows those shoes from a mile away, men and women, and that's a branding tactic. And it's very interesting to listen to the story about the branding tactic. But any type of high-end brand, Gucci, Jimmy Choo, Prada, they all have like certain signature parts about them that are very, very consistent. And their message is usually consistent across the board. And one of the things I tell business owners all the time is those brands very rarely, if ever, discount their prices. Very rarely. And so we can learn something from that. We don't have to necessarily discount our prices. We can still do good things with the profits from our company. So we can increase our income, our impact, and our influence, like you say, and then still do good in the world with the profits from our company. We can give back to our communities, to different organizations, and still be philanthropic in that way without discounting our product and our brand. So, well, I would love to hear, I know you said that you have a nice little archetype quiz. I'm a quiz junkie. I love doing all sorts of quizzes. So can you tell us or tell the audience where they can check out your website, which we will link all up in the show notes, and where might they be able to like find what kind of archetype they are, what kind of business archetype they are?
Yes, sure. My website is elvali.com, and on the website, you can see there is a quiz for you to take. You can find your brand archetype. Also, there is another e-mag to help you discover the power of luxury brand. And just as you just mentioned, like luxury brand, for example, they don't discount. And there are other elements of luxury brand really makes them luxury, and how you can learn this into your brand. For example, is it creating exclusivity for your brand? Is it creating a really brand story? Is it associate yourself with high collaborative people? Or is it really focused on creating the customized experience? Just as you said, you don't need to discount, but why not adding more value, create a luxury experience for your client, or adding bonuses, adding client onboarding gifts or offboarding gifts? All those things is you can learn from the luxury brands so that you can brand yourself as a luxury brand as well. Yes, so there are some resources on my website, elvali.com. You can discover and help you improve your brand.
That's excellent. And we're going to link all of this up in the show notes. So go visit Elva's website. You can see all her and all her beauty and beautiful luxury on the website. I love your website. I think it's it speaks to me. It's very clean. It's very bold. And when you're looking at these things, like, you know, I would say too, like, what kind of, if you can even see when you're trying to decide and build your brand, like, see when you look at other people's websites, like what kind of feeling do you get when you look at their websites or look at their social media pages? Does it feel confusing to you? Are you like, I have no idea what this person actually does? Is it very clear? Because those are the kind of things that are important, that are all part of the branding piece. So reach out to Elva. Her website's beautiful. Go take the archetype test, I think, or quiz. I think it's a great idea. And if you're interested in possibly working with her, I'm sure you can contact her on the website. We're going to list all of her contact details in the show notes below. And thank you so much for getting up so early and joining us from across the world.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And it's really been a pleasure to chat with you and learn a little bit about what you do and how we can level up our branding efforts as female business owners. I love your story, and I hope you'll come back and join us again.
Oh, thank you again for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope our audience can benefit from it, and definitely would love to come back in the future.
Excellent. I know that they will benefit from it for sure. Hopefully, I know that they'll go take the test. A lot of my people are quiz junkies too. We're all on this quest to learn more about ourselves. So thanks so much for joining us. And guys, stay tuned for your next episode of Female Empowered. We'll be back next time. So bye for now.